Well, today I'm looking at the Porsche Cayman, also called the 718 Cayman. There's a 718 family. The Boxster and Cayman were just called their separate names. Now they're the 718 family of vehicles, and they take after a car that is historically significant for Porsche. And I was at the Boxster launch of the 718 in Portugal just about a year ago, and Walter Roll was there, famous Porsche driver, rally driver, and I asked him, why is it called the 718? So why did they change the name? It's because of this car, right?
Yes, of course. This car has a great history, you know, and many people say the new Boxster, he looks a little bit like the poor 718, and I think it's quite clever. I like it to call him 718. I always, in my head, I have this picture from this fantastic race car.
So this had a four-cylinder engine,
yes,
which is why with the new Boxster,
because
it's got a four-cylinder, they're using this name. So even a bit confusing to change the name?
Yeah, this 718, it was just a number from the production.
Right.
At this time, it was maybe the project number 718.
Oh, so they all had different names.
Yeah.
So this 718 Cayman is the lowest priced sports car in the Porsche family. They have the Macan four-cylinder that's less expensive than this, but in sports cars, this one's right around $62,000. Used to be the Boxster was cheaper. They flipped that around now because I guess more people want the Boxster, so they charge a premium for it. So this car has a four-cylinder turbocharged engine in the back, but they also changed some of the look as well. Wider air openings in the front. You can also get the 4-point LED daytime running lights if you like. It has a slightly massaged look compared to the previous version, but it's when you drive it that makes the biggest difference. Another thing Porsche is going forward with is the new look to the rear of their vehicles. Porsche across the back, and also the name and number of the vehicle listed there. It's a bit busy. Some people like it, some people don't. I always joke that eventually they'll just tell you how much you paid across the back of the car. So it's the 718 Cayman, the least expensive car in the Porsche family. Should you buy it? Let's find out. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the inside because this is really the interior we've had for many years in the Boxster and the Cayman family. They did update the head unit though. They gave us a flat screen. We've seen this in the Carrera. It's pretty good. It's not as intuitive as others. It's still a touchscreen. You have touchscreen on the top and you have buttons below, and you figure it out pretty quickly after a while. I did notice on some other cars that it would lock up once in a while when you get text messages and emails, but this one seems to be pretty good. One omission in the Porsche family is the fact that they don't support Android Auto. You have Apple CarPlay embedded in their head units, but not Android Auto. You know, they say most people who drive Porsches are Apple users. Well, I've had 3 Porsches. I plan to get another one, and I'm an Android user. So I think that's a bit smug on their part. I'd like to see them integrated for both platforms because the majority of the world runs on Android. Apple is still only about 20%. So there you go, Porsche. Get on it. Yes, we heard from Walter Roll of the 718. It's a famous Porsche race car with 4 cylinders, but most people associate Boxster, Cayman, and Carrera with flat 6 engines. So because of fuel economy standards, they lobbed off 2 of the cylinders, but they turbocharged it. There's 2 different variants. There's the base one that I have here today. That's a 2-liter, and then a 2.5-liter in the Cayman or Boxster S models. Now, the biggest issue most people are having is not so much with how much power they produce, but this. The sound that they have. Now you've got a horizontally opposed 4-cylinder engine. It's going to sound kind of like a Subaru horizontally opposed 4-cylinder engine. But the thing is that's different with this car and with every Porsche is that the engine is behind you. So this is a mid-engine car and the Carrera is a rear-engine car. It has a slightly different characteristic because you're not hearing the engine in front of you. What you get more with this car than anything else is a mechanical sound. It doesn't really have much of an exhaust note. It's more just a mechanical sound that you hear inside the cabin. And it doesn't have that throatiness of the previous 6-cylinder. Now, I've had a chance to drive the S version of the Boxster with 350 horsepower, and that had an optional sport exhaust on it, and it really made all the right noises. It popped and it gurgled. With that engine and that exhaust, you really kind of forget about the fact that it's a 4-cylinder turbo. With this, with the 2-liter version, it kind of is always there in the background. One of the things is the base engine, the 2-liter, has a single turbocharger. If you get the S, that has a twin-scroll turbocharger, kind of what you would expect from a 911 turbo. Same kind of geometry, and it makes a marked difference. Now, compared to the old engine, this one has 25 more horsepower. So that's 300 horsepower for the base engine. Sounds fantastic, and it is really good when you have the car up to speed. Torque is 280 pound-feet, but the thing is that sometimes at lower RPMs, it does get a little bit bogged down because the displacement of the engine really isn't that big. So under 2,000 RPM, it's a different characteristic compared to when you have it over 2,000 RPM. Over 2,000 RPM, this engine really is fantastic. So I think this is a car that is best suited for somebody that does commuting on the highway. If you're going to be doing a lot of stop and go driving, but if I was going to choose between the two basic engines that are available in this car today, I would get the S, hands down. Now, the other thing about these cars is that they spent so much time on the suspension. So the track at the back is a little wider because they had to make more room for the engine. You would think with the 6-cylinder you would need more space, but no, this actually takes up more space than the old flat 6, and they improved the suspension front and rear, and the rack for the steering is right out of the 911 turbo. So this car, when you compare it handling to handling, is way higher than the previous version. Now, because of emissions, car companies are downsizing their engines. But when you take a flat 6 and you lob off 2 cylinders, sure, you're going to turbocharge the remaining 4, but it has a very different characteristic than the previous car. And I looked at the sales numbers of the Cayman and the Boxster, the 718 family, and they're down this year over last year. It might be because of production constraints, but I don't think so. I think a lot of people are taking a wait-and-see approach on these vehicles. As with most Porsches, except for their utility vehicles, I always believe that the best place to start is the S, to get the Cayman or the Boxster or the Carrera S. It gives you just that bit more that really should be standard equipment on all Porsches. So if you're looking for a Cayman, Cayman S is the way to go. It sounds better, it has more power. This one's fine at a starting price of $62,700 plus options. But if it's my money, and I suggest to you, get the Cayman S.